Hello, welcome to the new video The Love of Milim and Rimuru by BenGrem1234. Chapter 17. The meeting with the paladins. A little over a month have passed. In that time, Hinata spent it tirelessly at work with her paladins, building a defense against Veldora and Rimuru while her Imperial Guards was out gathering intelligence for her. Now it was time for the Empire's monthly conference between both the major groups of the papacy the Crusaders, the paladins under Hinata's direct control, the Master Rooks and the Imperial Guard forces serving the Holy Emperor. They were the pride of Lubelius, with Hinata Sakaguchi standing at the very peak. Hinata serves as the conference speaker, the chief knight of the Master Rooms and the captain of the Crusaders, not to mention the strongest knight in the nation. Her word was law during this meeting. To her right were 6 people representing the Crusaders. The first was Captain Ranard Jester, known as the Noble of Light. The next was Arnaud Bauman of Air, the man lauded as the second strongest after Hinata. The next was Bacchus of Earth, a man gifted at smashing his magic-infused holy mace into his foes. Following him was Lotus of Water, a beautiful healer and elementalist who employed Holy Spirit Undine on the battlefield. Guard of Fire was next, a tall knight and conjurer who wielded his flaming red spear. And finally Fritz of Wind, a magical fighter as talented in wind magic as with his twin sword. This people seated here were among the best among the thousands of Paladin, and there is no doubting their talents. Contrasting with them, in Hinata's left side, were the Master Rooms, a much more ragtag assemblage. They numbered a mere 33 but still formed their own division due to their strength in battle. They are all at least rank A on charts, and a few of them were even champion level, a calamity on the threat scale. A few of them were notable. Blue Sky, Sare, who looked like a little boy but was older than anyone in the room. He used to be the chief of the Imperial Guard before Hinata took the role from him. Giant Boulder, Grigori. He was Sare's right-hand man, whose impervious skill granted him astonishing physical resilience. The last was Raging Sea, Glenda. She was newer to the fold than Hinata but made a name for herself in the recent years. Notable for her red spiky hair, she was a wild woman whose fighting skill were still veils in mystery. This trio was known as the 3 Battlesages, and they sat together opposite the 6 paladins. The 9 of them were literally superhumans, far beyond framework one would think a human body could provide. They were all saints in their own right, and with Hinata, they were collectively known as the 10 Great Saint. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Let's begin. Hinata, who was the absolute leader, began. Behind Hinata, shaded by some bamboo blinds, the Holy Emperor Louis was taking in the joint conference at his seat. Before the meeting could officially start, Sare made his opinion known. What gave you the right to be late, Hinata? Not only did you fail to keep the storm dragon Veldora from waking up, you even let a new demon lord be born. You fail as our leader, and I refuse to follow an incompetent leader like you, Sare said with disgust to Hinata. You are being rude, Sir Sare, Ranard coldly stated. Arnaud nodded his head. He is right, boy. If you have an issue with our captain, I'd be more than happy to work it out with you. Is that so? Grigori said with an irritated voice. You fancy pants knights want to start a fight with us? That's very cocky of you, considering that you only act that way to opponents who are polite enough to lose on purpose. What did you say, you buffoon? Bacchus shouted. You want to die, you low-lifes, Fritz said with anger. The meeting continued like this, with the knights throwing insults at each other. Hinata sighed and looked at everyone with anger. All of you, shut up. Silence reigned after she said that. Everybody looked at her to see what she would say. Now it's not the time for allies to be squabbling with each other. Hinata turned to Sare. Sare, if you want to take my place at the top, you are more than welcome to try. Bear in mind, I would have to test you to see if you have what it takes. That was enough to silence every knight in the room. Hinata's words were no mere threat. If the knights had continued to argue foolishly, she was ready to start slashing at them. Her audience were all smart enough to pick up on that. It was very rare for Hinata to show that much emotion, forcing Sare to back down because any more prodding would be dangerous. Peeved. Whatever, Sare said with a frustrated look. He had already tested a humiliating defeat against Hinata once. He was not ready to face that same humiliation anytime soon. Hinata calmed down after making sure that everyone has settled down. Report. Reporting, Lightus. freshly returned from fieldwork around the Jura forest. The forest was in perfect peace. Even after Veldora's resurrection, I spotted a group of merchants entering and exiting the area. I managed to overhear a few rumors. Which is? Hinata asked. That the new demon lord has awakened into a true dragon, Lytus said. What? Everyone shouted, quiet. Let's hear the report to the end first, Hinata said. But we must address this issue. Grigori tried to say. I said quiet, or do you want to go against me? Hinata asked Grigori with a glare. He wisely kept silent after that. No matter how arrogant he may be, he was not foolish enough to go against Hinata. Continue, very well. I spoke with some of the merchant and they said that they were not sure themselves if the rumors were true. However, they told me that the Kingdom of Bloomend had declared a full and open relationship with Tempest. This includes security guarantee, and Bloomend's citizens are allowed to come and go as they please. Though, I couldn't confirm if the rumor of Demon Lord Rimuru accession to a true dragon were true since security were very tight, Lytus reported. I see. And what about Veldora? Hinata asked. I was unable to confirm Veldora's existence. I couldn't enter the city since there was a barrier that covered the entire city which I believe informs them of the intention of those entering the city, Lytus said. Hinata nodded to Lytus after she was done giving her report. Hinata expected something like this since Luminous confirmed to her that Rimuru has indeed ascended to a true dragon. What if the news of Demon Lord Rimuru accession was fake? Fritz asked. Hinata gave him a look which immediately silenced him. We can't write off the possibility of the rumor being true. Let's hear the rest of the report before we decide, Hinata said to them calmly. The meeting continued in this manner, with everyone giving their own report to Hinata. From what Hinata could gather, it seems that Demon Lord Rimuru has indeed ascended to a true dragon and he has established a working relationship with his allied nations. The reports the knights could get about the people opinions of Tempest were all positive. The people were all praising Tempest and from the look of things, it is only a matter of time before Tempest becomes the greatest nation in the western country. Sare was the last to give his report. It seems that King Edmaris has abdicated the throne just as Demon Lord Rimuru has demanded, and on the surface, it seems the transfer was peaceful. But Edward, the new king, is busy assembling an army of talented mercenaries and in response, the nobility is getting frantic as well. I believe a start of a civil war is about to take place. And that was what Hinata wanted to hear. The whole situation in Pharmas all pointed to civil war, and her suspicion is that the new Demon Lord Rimuru is the mastermind behind it all. That alone is not enough to conclude that Demon Lord Rimuru is the mastermind behind it, Sare continued. That's true. So? Hinata asked. I went down on everybody the new king has made contact with. He's been busy, that's for sure, Sare said. Is he trying to shore up his military? Hinata asked. Exactly, Hinata. Well, that settles it. The new King Edward has no interest on fulfilling the demands of Demon Lord Rimuru. No demon lord will let something like this go unchallenged, and I doubt Rimuru is foolish enough not to expect that from him. So do you think this is all part of our new demon lord's plans? Fritz asked. Yeah. No doubt about it. Hinata answered. All this are still revolving around that new demon lord. Rimuru is a terrifying foe, not because of his strength but because of his intelligence. How he predicts outcome and plan ahead even before an event happened, is one of the things that terrified Hinata about Rimuru. Though she would never let her knights hear about it. Hinata looked at the knights seated around her and sighed. They all had a confident look on their face. They were under the impression that they are the strongest beings in this world, excluding the true dragons. She pitied them because before she met Luminous in person, she was under that same kind of thought. Once they see how truly terrifying a true demon is, she could only hope that they won't be too broken after the encounter. That concludes the report. I hope everyone got the pictures of things? Hinata asked. Yes. Renard said. The resurrection of the storm dragon Veldora has less impact than expected, and the only casualties were the deployed military of Pharmas. The real question is whether the rumor of the new demon Lord Rimuru being a true dragon is true or not. If that is the case, why don't we ask the Archbishop Rahiam, who survived the onslaught of Veldora's rampage? We know he was at Tempest before as a prisoner, but he was released by Demon Lord Rimuru. I'm curious on what he could tell us about the new Demon Lord, Sare said. I thought so too. I've contacted him, so he should be here any moment from now, Hinata explained. I can't wait to hear what he has to say, Fritz said. Maybe he could tell us if the rumor about Demon Lord Rimuru accession to a true dragon is true, Glenda said. Hinata saw no reason to keep what Luminous said to her a secret. True. I can say to you now that among the missives I received from our Lord Luminous, there was one we must not break no matter what. Which is, we must never lay a hand on the new Demon Lord Rimuru, under any circumstances. Please bear that in mind, Hinata told them. What? Everyone shouted. I will be blunt, Hinata said. In this instance, we must remain undercover. None of our dealings with this Demon Lord must come out to public. This was her way of telling all the knights to keep their hands away from Rimuru, which surprised them. Are you saying we should ignore everything this new Demon Lord is doing? Sare asked her in anger. He is right. Even if the rumor of the new Demon Lord being a true dragon was true, if all of us gather together and challenge him, we can surely defeat him, Fritz said. The Demon Lords are untouchable as a rule, yes, but only in the public eyes. If you recall, they are no match for any of the 10 great saints. And if all of us band together, not even a true dragon will stand a chance, Arno said. The others nodded from this. Hinata again was reminded of the ignorance of the proud knights. It is true that the knights were strong enough to beat a would-be Demon Lord, but compared to the real thing, then the 10 great saints stand no chance in hell. Hinata, who has met and fought Luminous, could testify to this. And, Luminous, the all-powerful Demon Lord, was very worried of angering Rimuru, who is now a true dragon. This is to show you how vast the power gap between a true dragon and an awakened Demon Lord is. The proud Luminous admitted that she would rather not mess with Rimuru in any situation whatsoever. This made Hinata to believe that picking a fight with Rimuru will be the most foolish thing they will ever do. She has her suspicion that Rimuru was the one who wiped out the Pharmas army. And if he was able to do that before his awakening to a true Demon Lord and accession to a true dragon, then she doesn't even want to imagine what kind of monster he is now. Against that kind of monster, what do this wannabe knights have to offer? And from what Luminous told her, it was one of his subordinates that beat up awakened Demon Lord Clayman. If Demon Lord Rimuru's subordinates are all awakened Demon Lord level alongside Rimuru, who is now a true dragon, then picking a fight with him is out of the question. Not to mention that Demon Lord Milim will not hesitate to wipe us out if we lay a hand on her lover. You know, though, we have both this Demon Lord and the Storm Dragon Veldora to deal with. No matter how strong we are, we can't take them both head on, Renard said. But we can't allow this Demon Lord to do as he please in the domain of humans, Grigori shouted, which resumed the debate back in the silence. Hinata had heard enough. When the hall grew quiet with everyone looking at Hinata, she said, the missives of Luminous is absolute. We cannot defy them. What the hell? Are you telling us to let Pharmas be razed to the ground? Lytus asked. No, Lytus. The main problem in Pharmas is the civil war. Its people, not its nobility, must be protected, Ranard said. We are going to see some changes in Pharmas very soon. They never let us interfere in their business before, and I doubt they would let us interfere now, Hinata said with a smirk. So, we should just let Demon Lord Rimuru to do as he please? Grigori asked. Yes, we should. The Demon Lord Rimuru has declared his disinterest in hostility with the human race. If that is true, there is no further reason to be hostile with him, Hinata told them. In truth, she was only saying this because she knew they would all be slaughtered if they challenged Rimuru to a fight. The difference in power is as clear as night and day, at least to her it is. The proud knights will never understand this unless they meet a true Demon Lord for real. Besides, Archbishop Rahiam of Pharmas was part of the invasion team, and I myself have attempted to defeat Demon Lord Rimuru. Both of us failed, and now that he likely views us as his enemy, I'm not sure there is another choice but to keep quiet, Hinata said to them. But those are the mistakes of the Western Holy Church and of yourself. It is not a mistake of Lubelius, Grigori insisted. Exactly. And that is why you need to stay hands off. If worse comes to worst, I will take full blame for everything that happened, Hinata said with a strong voice. My lady, you can't. No, I won't accept this. The paladins voiced their objection as Hinata addressed the Master Rooks. Calm down. I don't think Demon Lord Rimuru want to wage war with us as well, Hinata told them. You trust him that much? Sare asked. Yeah, I do. This may sound unlikely from someone who tried to kill him, but I trust him. He told me himself that he is an otherworlder. I ignored it at the time, but it seems he was trying to avoid conflict with me, Hinata told. An otherworlder? Truly, Arnaud exclaimed. Yes. From what he said, he died in his otherworld and reincarnated as a slime, Hinata said. The knights could not believe what they heard. This new demon lord Rimuru is starting to sound more interesting by the minute. That's all well and good, but what if demon lord Rimuru sees you as his enemy? Sare asked. Yeah. You did try to kill the guy. Now that he got a bunch more powers, maybe he might try to get back at you. I wouldn't blame the guy, Fritz said. I told you. I will take all blame. I might even go there and apologize if need be, Hinata said casually. You do know that's reckless, right? Renard asked her. Well, it is not something I would do right away. I first need to understand Demon Lord Rimuru mindset when Archbishop Rahim arrives. The meeting continued like so, until there heard a knock on the conference room. Come in, Chapter 18. Hinata's resolve. Come in, Hinata replied, thinking it was Rahim. The guards on the other side opened the heavy door and inside strode exactly the man she expected, Cardinal Nicolaus, one of her trusted friend and a nervous-looking Archbishop Rahim behind him. This was expected, but the group behind them were what surprised Hinata. It seems the 7 days clergy was here. Good to see you, Hinata. Are you doing okay? Why are you looking so surprised? The 7 days clergy conversed this inside Hinata's mind. Hinata could not hide her surprise. Why are all of you here? She asked them. Who are these guys, Hinata? Sare asked. Silence, Sare. You are in the presence of the 7 days, Nicolaus hurriedly replied. Nani? Everyone shouted. Exactly, Hinata admitted. All the knights immediately stood up and saluted except for Hinata. According to the rumors, the 7 days clergy were all well trained, surpassing the realm of enlightened and charged with training the next hero. Their existence are stuff from legends because of the mysteries that surrounds them. They were the ones who gave Hinata the trials that determines the next hero of humanity. Though, Hinata hated them with a burning passion because of their negligence to the Crusaders before she became their leader. She determined that the 7 days were all useless relics of the past when she took their trial. She took their skills with her unique skill, Usurper, which grants her 2 powers. Seize, which grants her the ability to take a target skill, and Copy, which lets her learn the skills she has taken for herself. She has very much surpassed the 7 days clergy in power, and they hated her for that. So, what brings you here today? Hinata asked while glaring at them. The rest of the knights could pick up on the hostility in Hinata's voice and wisely chose to remain quiet. He. No need to be alarmed. Archbishop Rahim here has brought back some valuable information about the new demon lord, has he not? We simply want to hear what he wants to say about this new demon lord for ourselves. This was their answer to her question. It seems that the 7 days clergy were using thought communication to answer her question in her mind. There were 3 of the 7 days clergy present in the meeting, and those 3 were the most corrupt in their group. Ars, the Tuesday priest who controls fire, though it is a lighter flame compared to Shizu's. Dina, the Monday priest, and Vena, the Friday priest. Hinata obviously did not trust them. From day one, this guy's never liked Hinata and would use any opportunity given to them to mess with her and bring down her spirit. It got worse after Hinata surpassed them in power, with them now plotting to kill Hinata by any means necessary. She could not figure out their motives, but she will eventually. Hinata began to grow very nervous. Rimuru obviously had a poor impression of her. If the clergy begin to get in her way, only the gods know what Rimuru would do to her and her nation. She could only hope that when Rimuru learns that Luminous is the leader of this nation, will be enough to calm him down. She faced Rahim and gave him a listening ear. I and Falmouth were very foolish. We challenged a foe that was far too fearsome for any of us. He will be the downfall of any proud nation, and any nation who wished to challenge him will meet their end just like we did. Rahim said with his bloodshot eyes and his voice raised like a scream while shivering like a scared lost puppy. As he told the story, the paladins began to murmur among themselves. The sheer size of this monster was astounding to them. Nothing they could think of will help them block the flash of light in Rahim's story. Hinata remained calm and collected. She surmised that the attack uses the principle of sunlight and the droplet of water simply reflect the sunlight at a very fast rate. It was a dangerous skill, but it can be counted if you understand how the skill works. As if to back up her theory, the 7 days began to provide their own commentary. Perhaps this is sunlight magic, the kind Sir Gren was always so gifted at. Wouldn't anti-magic barrier shut it down? And Gren didn't have that much force to it. Gren, the Sunday priest, was the head of the clergy. His magic allows him to control light. One of his spells concentrated sunlight in a similar way. Hinata, understanding how the power worked, didn't seem that much bothered about it. Just as she was thinking that Rimuru was no big deal after all, Rahiam continued. A moment please. The mystery attack was a dreadful thing indeed, but it was not what frightened me the most, he said while swallowing a lump in his throat and sweating in terror. Everybody in the room stopped what they were doing to pay attention to what Rahiam was saying. The real horror came after that. The next moment, the battlefield went completely quiet. Some were unconscious, some were fatally hurt. Others were wounded and screaming on the ground. Still more were healthy and moving around, scared out of their wits. And yet, the very next moment, all noise was gone. What do you mean? Hinata asked calmly. I mean what I said, Lady Hinata. At that moment, the surviving members of our army of 20,000 died in a blink of an eye. The only survivals were Sir Raisin, Edmaris, the king of Pharmas and me. Seeing it made me lose my sanity, Rahiam said with a very frightened look on his face. Silence fills the meeting room. The truth is not something that the knights could fathom. They all recalled a tale of a single individual, laying waste to an entire nation and becoming a demon lord. This individual were said to be the embodiment of Calamity herself. She was a being whose powers are beyond human comprehension, and when she moves, destruction follows her. Hinata recalled what Luminous told her once when she asked her about her ranking in the Demon Lord hierarchy. Little flashback. They are two beings whom my power cannot begin to comprehend. Guy Crimson and Milim Nava. These two are in their own realm of power that we cannot even fathom. I believe that those two have surpassed true dragons in power. Who would win if you fight them? A naive Hinata asked. If I fight Milim, I might be able to outwit her, but I would never win. As for Guy, there is just no contest between us. I would straight up die in a blink of an eye if I fight him. Little flashback ends. Hinata couldn't help but shiver from recalling that memory. Maybe if all the humans were to brand together, they might defeat such beings, but that was wishful thinking. The others finally realized what they were dealing with. This was not just a would-be demon lord. This was an awakened demon lord with his full power. And to make the situation worse, he was being supported by Veldora. A heavy silence filled the room. It was very clear that no one wants to admit that a demon lord, in the true meaning, was born. It seems they have forgotten about the rumor of Rimuru's accession. I see. So we should assume that Demon Lord Rimuru has awakened. But I have a question, is it true that Rimuru has ascended into a true dragon? Hinata asked. The paladins were once again reminded of what they were discussing before Rahiam came in. They too wanted to confirm if the rumor were true or not. Rahiam began to shake and hyperventilate after Hinata asked him that question. He started sweating blood and tears of blood began to come out of his eyes. This seriously surprised everybody in the room a lot. What could he have seen that frightened him this much? What did the new Demon Lord Rimuru do to him to reduce him to this state? Finally, after some minutes, Rahiam calmed down a little bit to answer Hinata's question. Before I was released by Demon Lord Rimuru, he approached me in my prison. His appearance was different from before. He looks older and more feminine, but the frightening thing about him was his powers. The aura that was pouring out from him was unlike anything this world has ever felt. He was being accompanied by a high-ranking demon, but I didn't pay him any attention because the power Lord Rimuru was exuding was terrifying. Compared to when he massacred us, his powers seems to be endless. I don't know how strong demon lords were supposed to be, but Demon Lord Rimuru powers were catastrophic in nature. That answered Hinata's question. She can now confirm from what Rahiam said, that Demon Lord Rimuru has indeed ascended to a true dragon, just as Luminous has said. The rest of the knights were simply left speechless. It seems that their confidence from before were now a thing of memory. Not even they will act cocky after hearing something like this. What did Demon Lord Rimuru say to you? Hinata asked. Oh, that's right. He wanted me to deliver a message to you, Lady Hinata, Rahim said to her. He handed a crystal ball to Hinata. Hinata took it and eyed it with suspicion. What could Rimuru possibly want to tell her? Maybe it was a declaration of war. She was very frightened to know what the message is, but she has to know. She activated the crystal and it showed an image of a goddess. No, that's not right. This was clearly Demon Lord Rimuru in the flesh, but his appearance could only be described as divine. Hinata was very surprised. What a change. She could hardly believe that this beautiful deity before her was the same Rimuru she fought a few months ago. How did this transformation happen? Her eyes met that of Rimuru in the recording and she began to freak out. She just now realized how nervous and frightened she was. As for the other paladins, they all had a gobsmacked expression. Is this beautiful deity supposed to be the new demon lord? Sare asked with a surprised voice. I can't believe how beautiful he looks, Ranard said. So this is Demon Lord Rimuru, huh? I must admit, I was expecting an angry-looking man, not this beautiful girl, Grigori said. Wait, is Demon Lord Rimuru even a man? Fritz asked. I always pictured him to be a man, but now, I'm not so sure anymore, Glenda said. I know how he may look, but I can assure you that he is 100% male, Hinata said to them. This once again silenced them. What can they say if they are told that the most beautiful being they have ever seen is a male? The message began and everyone remained silent to hear what he has to say. Hinata, are you there? I'll take you on in a one-on-one duel with no interference. That was the entire message. So simple with no room for misunderstanding. Everyone who saw the message understood one thing. Rimuru is angry because of what Hinata did to him. He killed Clayman and Hinata is next on the table. What do we do, Lady Hinata? Nikolaus asked in a nervous voice. Lady Hinata, give me your orders. I will gladly lead a force to crush this new demon lord, Arnaud said. Of course that's what you would say. Do you even have a brain in that head of yours? Sare asked Arnaud. What did you say? Arnaud asked in rage. Didn't Hinata spend the past half hour saying hands off? Do you really think the other demon lords will just cede by if we touch one of their members? That's assuming we could even touch him, Sare said to him. Are you getting cold feet, Sare? Arnaud mocked him. Not at all. If what Rahim said about this new demon lord accession to a true dragon is true, then our only option will be to accept his request, Sare said. He is right, Arnaud. Not only do we have Demon Lord Rimuru to deal with, but we also have the Storm Dragon Veldora as well. We might be able to take one of them on if we attack together, but against both at the same time is just asking to be slaughtered, Lytus said. Hinata meanwhile weighed her options. Arnaud offer a full battle with Rimuru. If there were to accept, it could lead to war with other nations joining, which will be bad for them.